Welcome to another edition of Inspired Stories, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes, how they've overcome adversity, and explore current challenges they're facing.
Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Leah Rosenthal-Kambic, owner of KidTime, Inc., a preschool that believes in allowing children to be children. That means allowing and encouraging movement when the little bodies need to wriggle. While they definitely use a curriculum, the kids are learning through their favorite thing, play. They pride themselves on being a community for their staff and families by offering many events for people to meet and spend time together. In 2021, Leah started a parent coaching business, which leverages her knowledge of her early childhood and her emotional IQ to ground even the most anxious parents. And we'll hear about an upcoming retreat that she has planned. And she has her own podcast, too, called The Empowered Mom. And before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. One recent client was able to add over $900 per employee per year to their bottom line by implementing one of our proprietary programs. Results vary for each company, and some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefitsagency.com. Now, back to our guest today, the owner of KidTime, Inc., Leah. I appreciate you making the time to share your story today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Okay, so Leah, let's start at the beginning. As I understand it, you first started out working at KidTime before eventually becoming the owner. Talk to me about how that journey unfolded.
I did. So I started at KidTime at 19 years old in the actual 90s, as my staff say now, the 1900s. So fell into it really, and I just fell in love with working with children. I was in school and studying my early childhood education. And so I did, I think, about a year as a teacher's aide and then became a teacher and then an assistant director and eventually director. And in 2018, my co-owner and I bought out the business from our previous owner when he retired. So once we took over the business, we decided to expand and we opened 3 more sites. So we went from one little school to 4 sites, and it's all been going gangbusters since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's quite an arc. You start out as an employee, and over the course of 18, 20 years, you become you start running the place, and then you become an owner. And
Mhm.
shortly after becoming an owner, you decide we're going to grow this, and not just by one location. You went from 1 to 4. That's quite an undertaking.
We went from 1 to 4, and we went from 1 to 4 through we started growing right before COVID. So it was a very wild ride through 2020 to about 2023. We obtaining use permits and trying to keep everybody afloat while COVID was active and, all of that kind of stuff. So that was a really, really wild time, a really challenging time. We've settled now into our 4 sites, and we feel like we're right where we need to be. But yes, it has been a journey. It's been quite a lot for 2 teachers that don't really, we're not business people. We've had to learn on the fly. And we actually think that's a little bit to our benefit because we are preschool teachers. And if anyone knows preschool teachers, they're very resourceful. They're really great at pivoting, and they're really great at making something out of nothing. So that's kind of been our MO the whole time.
So let's tell the audience where your centers are located. City, state, paint a picture for us there.
Sure. We're in the Bay Area in California. So we're in the East Bay. We're east of Oakland in Pleasant Hill and Walnut Creek, California.
Okay. And so you guys were growing through the early part of COVID, which is the worst time to try to grow a school, right? Because and in California, especially if memory serves, the shutdowns were particularly onerous. Talk to us about what the early days of the COVID period were like for you.
Yeah, it was wild. So when the shutdown started, we had our one main preschool was fully running. We had a second location, which was our after school care program that was fully running. And we had just opened our second preschool 6 months before the shutdown. So we were just hitting our stride on preschool number two. Things were starting to really kind of feel like it was going to be nice and smooth and easy. And then lo and behold. So when the shutdown happened, we made the decision to not let anyone go. We decided a lot of schools were furloughing, and we opted not to. And my biggest concern was losing people for good. And I'm so glad that we made that decision. It was very, very hard to stay afloat at the time, but we retained all of our staff, and that was huge. It was so, so important to us because we always say we would be nothing without our teachers, and our teachers are so wonderful. And it was just something we weren't willing to risk and leave them in the lurch. So we took all kinds of measures that we could. We took out a PPP loan and an emergency disaster loan, and we just kind of held on tight and tried to do the best we could. So at some points we had 5 or 10 kids total in our whole school of 80 because they were the only kids allowed to come to school because their parents were essential workers. But we still showed up and we did what we needed to do. Our teachers were making YouTube videos for the kids, and they made a whole channel for those that weren't allowed at the beginning. We could only take, these essential worker children. So we had to sort of patiently wait to be able to bring everyone back into the mix. But one by one, as people were allowed to come back kind of in waves, we got back up to numbers, and it was tricky. We had to keep all of our classes very separate, which we don't typically do. But again, it's that pivot. I'm dizzy when I think about how many pivots we made during that period of time.
I can only imagine how challenging that was. I had kids that were in daycare or preschool here where I live in Columbus, Ohio during the early part of COVID. And I knew some of the owners, personally, and to hear their stories, what they were going through, the loss of income, trying to hold on to their staff, having to pay, rent at, these expensive locations. I can only imagine the years that it added on to your life. What were some of the coping mechanisms that you used to get through that difficult time?
That's a great question. At the time, I think I was sort of flying in a state of shock and just I won't say that I really was coping at the beginning. I was just acting. We just had no choice but to soldier forward. Our clients, I think one of the things that really helped at that time was we have great relationships with our clients. As you mentioned, we're very much about community and supporting our families. And a lot of our parents said, we're still going to pay your tuition. It's okay. We understand. We all thought it would be a couple of weeks or a month, right? So people thought, oh, no big deal. And, you know, at once things started to get sort of back into a normal space, we offered reimbursements to a lot of those families that paid, and some took it and some said no thank you. We wanted
Wow.
you to be here when the whole thing was over. So that was amazing, and just being able to lean into our community and into each other as a staff was just massively helpful. We all really are a tight team, and that was, a godsend at the time.
And so you have 4 centers now. Are there plans for additional growth, or do you feel pretty comfortable with where you guys are at the moment?
In this moment, we love where we are. We have one of our sites. We're actually in a use permit right now process to move to a larger location. So that one's going to grow a little bit. It's our infant and toddler program. But I'm of the mindset that we're here to meet needs. And so if the need arises and if we find the right location, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't continue to grow, as long as we stay very consistent in quality in all of our sites. That's always just been the baseline. We're not willing to just keep opening centers everywhere and hope for the best. We want to make sure we've got enough of a framework of onboarding and good training so that our teachers really are consistent and can all be up to our standards.
Yeah, that actually makes me think of a question here, because I wonder, when you're operating a single location, you're probably a lot more hands-on. You're in the center every day, and you grow to 2, you grow to 3, you grow to 4. You can't be at all 4 sites simultaneously. it's probably not even feasible to pop into each of the 4 sites, every day. Talk to me about how you had to kind of shift your role inside of the company to be able to accommodate that growth and make sure that these centers could run, a little bit more autonomously.
Yeah, that's actually a really relevant question, because so you asked about coping. I think it was, so 2020 was the shutdown. 21 in the fall, I went on a retreat. I had been so stressed, and I'd gotten through basically a year and a half of this time period. And I went away on a retreat and had this very transformative experience where I realized I cannot be the director of my site anymore. We have grown. I am spread too thin. I had an amazing assistant director who was just waiting in the wings when I was ready to give up my role. And I finally said, okay, I'm ready. Promoted her. And that's when everything shifted. I found my footing again. I felt grounded again. And I had a little bit of space and time in my brain, and that's when I decided to start Parent Time, my parent coaching arm, because during that period of time, the stress levels, as you just mentioned, for parents were off the chains too. Parents were home with their kids, trying to work, doing distance learning. It was such a nightmare. And I just really saw this need for parents to have some support as well. So going to this retreat and kind of stepping out of the fray for 3 days gave me this opportunity to really reset, and that's how Parent Time was born.
I want to hear more about Parent Time and the upcoming retreat, but tell me a little bit more about this retreat that you went to that was so transformative for you. What was the
So
experience like there?
yeah, so I found this summer camp for women in Oregon, just outside of Portland, and I didn't know anybody that was going. And I just kind of took a leap, and this looked really amazing. It was tech free. It was marketed to entrepreneurs, women who are change makers, people who run businesses who need a break, and it was all women. And it was just incredible to get away, especially from my devices at that time. My phone
Mhm.
was glued to my hand. It was constantly, we were waiting for the next update and when were the regulations going to change, and who had COVID now, and do we have to close a classroom? And it was just so hard. So being able to set the tech down and be in nature and around all of these other inspiring women, it was sort of like just being embraced in a huge hug. And I had been needing it. It's, how you sometimes you don't know what you need. But the
Until
woman
it
who,
shows up. Yep.
yep, and there it is. So Marley Williams is the leader of she no longer runs Camp Yes, but now she runs amazing retreats. And she stated it that when you come to camp, she hoped that you would get what you needed and something that you didn't even know you needed. And I mean, it gives me chills even now to think about it, because when I walked out of there, I was like, yeah, I needed permission to give up this role, to take on a different role. I'm now executive director of the 4 sites. I'm able to bounce around. I'm able to support all my directors. And it just, I couldn't let go. I was so, I couldn't see the forest for the trees, especially with everything going on with COVID. So it was the permission I needed.
What a cool story. And so out of that experience came this idea for your parent coaching program. Tell us more about what this is.
Yeah, so I started the parent coaching program in 2021. And basically, I meet with groups, I do individual and I do couples, and we do Zoom calls and we just kind of talk about whatever is going on. At first, I thought it would be more instructional. I've worked with children for 26 years. So I thought, I'll give people guidance on potty training and all of these kinds of things. And we do that a lot, but we also spend a lot of time unpacking why we parent the way we do. And I think, especially for people of my generation, I was born in 79, I'm 44. So many of us were raised in such a different way than how we want to raise our children. So those messages and the things that are ingrained in us from our childhood, we have to unpack them, see them, notice them, wish them away, and make decisions about how we want to parent. So it's kind of morphed from being more instructional to really a little more internal, and that has been extremely rewarding. I love these breakthroughs that I get to have with moms where, they realize, oh my gosh, I'm doing this thing because it's what I learned and not because it's what I believe or what I think is best for my child.
It sounds like therapy for parents,
It is a little bit
but
therapeutic.
instructional therapy.
Yes, I'm able to give guidance and direction, and so it is definitely a balance of both. And it's a lot of listening and a lot of reflecting. I hear a lot from parents, I'm not doing a good job at this. I really don't like how I handle this. And as we kind of talk about the situation, I can say back to them, well, it sounds like actually, I had a conversation with someone over Messenger last night. A mom said, I beat myself up when I yell at my kids and I lose my temper. And then, I have to apologize and we talk it out. And I said, but what would you be teaching them if you were perfect? We have to teach our kids how to be imperfect and how to figure out how to get back up, how to apologize when we've misspoken or lost our composure. This is a huge part of parenting. So I love a good reframe and kind of turning it back and saying, actually, I think you are doing what you intend to do. It just maybe doesn't feel like it to you on the inside because you're torn between how it sounded to you and how you intended it to sound.
I love that so much. That's something that I really try to make a point of doing with my own boys. I've got two sons, 8 and 9, who are loud, active, physical boys. And yeah, sometimes I lose my temper and I yell at them. And then I cool off and I'm like, why did I do that? And I beat myself up about it. But then I do exactly what you just talked about. And I go and I apologize. And here's the thing that I always try to make sure that I do in that apology is not make an excuse for what I did. I'm sorry that I yelled at you, but you guys were being crazy. It's like, no, there's no but in there. I'm sorry I yelled at you. I'm going to do better next time. I apologize for that. I shouldn't have raised my voice at you. That wasn't necessary. And they're very receptive to it. And I think to your point, like I'm modeling the behavior that I want from them because none of us are perfect. We're all going to slip up. We're going to, we're going to lose our temper. We're going to do something we wish we hadn't done. But then what do you do from that point when you catch yourself?
Exactly. Life is all about getting back up again, right? And I think, there's this, especially for moms, and I'm sure dads feel this way as well, but my clients tend to be moms. Tends to be who reaches out. But there's this internal mom guilt and shame that we walk around with all the time, especially as
Mhm.
working moms. And, people need to hear that they're doing a good job and that they're a human. And, our children appreciate seeing our humanity. They connect to us better when we're not. I remember as a child being intimidated by adults and, being afraid of them very often, and if a friend of mine's parents were strict or something and, they made me nervous. And I want to be able to form relationships with my child, and I want other parents to have that opportunity where they're genuine and it's real, and they can come and talk to you because they know even if you do fly off the handle, you will apologize and you will find your baseline again and show them how to do that.
I like that. So you do a lot of one-on-one coaching.
Hmm.
Um, Now this fall, and I think in August, you have a retreat. So this is like a group getting together to sort of
Yes.
support each other. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So it stems back actually. My mom passed away at the end of 2017, very unexpectedly. My mom was the most loving, wonderful human. I miss her every single day.
What's her name?
And her name is Lori. And I decided that in parent time, as sort of I mentioned, I went kind of from more instructional to more of this internal work. My mom was the most selfless woman. And we wear that as a badge of honor, but it's really not the best way to live your life to be selfless. There should be somewhere where you kind of pour into your own cup, right? So, this retreat that I'm holding is in honor of my mom. I want to bring other women together into a community space where we can unpack our drama and our nonsense that we grew up with, send it away, move it along, exit it from our bodies and our psyches and our minds, and make plans about how we want to be as parents. So I want to take them to a beautiful, quiet space that's in nature. It was such a game changer for me. And I'd never been on a retreat before when I went to that camp. I've since been to several, and every one I've gone to has been another. There's sort of a life shift that comes after each one. So I want to share that experience with other moms and kind of be that mom to them. And honey, sit down, let me feed you, let's talk about it. Let me listen to you and show you that support.
What's the name of the retreat, and where can people find out more information about it?
It is called It's Your Turn, and I have a retreat website I can link for you. But it's in Castro Valley, California, which is just about 20 minutes from the Oakland airport. And it's in a really neat location because it's easy to get to, but it feels like you're far away. It's on acres of land, and it's in a beautiful home with lots of beautiful outdoor space. So I'm envisioning, lots of alone time where people can take breaks and be on their own and journal and lay in a hammock, and then also times where we're together. And I have a co-facilitator who does energy work, who I've worked with at a couple of retreats now, who has absolutely changed my life in terms of helping just get rid of those old patterns and wishing them away. So I'm very, very excited about my co-facilitator. It's going to be amazing.
And what are the requirement? Excuse me. What are the requirements to be able to attend? Is it just moms or dads, parents of certain ages?
It is for moms. It does not have to have your children of any age are fine. It's not geared just toward preschool. Really, I mean, I know parents that have teenagers who absolutely that mom needs to get away and take a little break. So yeah, the only
Okay.
requirement is you're a mom and you need a break, and you're willing to be a little introspective and a little vulnerable with us.
And what are the dates? It's in August.
August 22nd through 25th.
Great. Okay. And you'll provide us the URL to link to in the show notes
Yes,
here.
will do.
Let people know
Absolutely.
that. Okay. So I want to know a little bit more about the centers. You guys have different programs. You service different age groups. Tell us about that.
So I have two preschools. So those are ages 2 through 6. We have one infant care center, and that's 0 to 4, and one after school program, which is 4 and up, basically up till 12, but fifth grade. So, and all of them are the same philosophy. We are play based, we are hands on, we want to let kids be kids. Our after school kids have a lot of fun because, they're coming from sitting at a desk all day, and they get to come and play and do all of the fun, ooey gooey sensory stuff we did in preschool. We still do with the big kids, and they absolutely love it. So, we're doing our slime and our finger painting and all of that good stuff. And we just think it shouldn't stop at 5. And, all of this sensory learning is so important from 0 to 5 that is our bread and butter. We're social and emotional and play-based learning are what KidTime is all about.
And so you've got a preschool center. Is this sort of like a preschool / daycare, or is it like limited hours, more like a traditional preschool? What's sort of the difference between those two terms?
Sure. All of our centers are open full days. So we just call ourselves preschool, but we are also full day care. So we're open from 7 to 6 p.m. We've got, all the working parents drop off in the morning. We do sort of our academic time, which I use that term loosely, in the morning, and the afternoon is all hands-on play. And our academics are also hands-on play. They're a little more targeted. So depending upon the age group.
Are there any particular philosophies that you guys draw inspiration from in setting up your curriculum?
The biggest one that we lean into is called Emergent Curriculum, which essentially means if you're in an activity that you've created for your children and they are interested in something else or they're taking it a different direction, we go that direction. So we don't lead from an egoic place of, I made this plan and you will do this activity and we're going to finish this story. An example I can give is, sometimes we're doing something and um, there's a spider on the wall and the kids are really excited about where is that spider going and they want to follow the spider. So it's like there are distractions that we could let sort of take over, or we could follow that distraction, and we want to go where the children's interests are. They learn what they love, they learn what they care about. So everything can shift at any time depending upon how it's presented and what their interest level is in it. I have absolutely stopped a book in the middle and said, "You guys don't seem like you like this book. We should do a different thing now." And they're like, "Yeah, let's do it." So, it's really just meeting the needs of the individual child is our main MO.
And the part of the country that you're in is a little more temperate year round. Do the kids get to be outside quite a bit?
Oh, yes, we are outside probably 75% of our day. We do early, in the morning time, we do circle time and we have our meals indoors and nap time. But for the most part, all of our activities, we try to set up things that can be indoor/outdoor. So we're in and out as much as possible. And, kids need fresh air. They need to run. They need to be free. They need to be flexible. Some mornings, at drop off time, it gets a little wild in the room, and you'll hear a teacher say, "All right, who needs a quick run?" We just open the door and let everybody go take a lap or two outside, and then they come back. They're full of energy, and I think a big pitfall of childcare and preschool is having kids sit down and be quiet too much. We have it actually posted on our wall. It says sitting down and being quiet is not a marketable job skill. I don't know why we think this is how we're supposed to teach 2-year-olds how to live their life.
And did I hear you say meals are provided?
Yeah, at different sites, it's different. One of my sites, we provide all the meals. Other sites, we just provide snacks and parents bring lunch. But we
Okay.
serve meals all day.
And at least some of the centers you have aftercare. So kids are coming from another school
Yes.
to your location until parents are able to come pick them up. How does that transition happen? How does that transportation take place?
We have passenger vans, and a couple of teachers are drivers, and we have one driver that's just a driver. So it's always a juggle. We pick up from 3 different schools, and typically 3 different schools, depending upon the year. And they're all going different ways, and they all show back up, and everybody's there. So we have a busy afternoon with our big kids.
Leo, what are some of the most common concerns that parents have when it comes to starting their kids at a new school like yours? And what can you tell them to help put them at ease?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's that guilt and shame shows up first. Parents are always worried that their little one is not going to be okay. And if there's tears that drop off, they're going to be miserable all day long. And the parents leave and will go off to work upset. And, so we're always telling parents, we will tell you what's really going on. We'll send you pictures, but please, know that they're in good hands. Once they're at the site, the transition of drop off is usually the hardest part for everyone involved. So we like our drop offs to be very quick and painless. We'll take the child if we need to and hold them or take their hand. But working into a routine where the child feels empowered at drop off is so helpful. We have a lot of kids that will push their mom out the door or their dad out the door. And, or we do 3 waves and 3 kisses, whatever their pattern and routine is. But we love establishing something so the child knows what to expect. And just really, I think I would love parents to just have faith in their own intuition that they chose a center that they can trust the people. And if you can lean into that trust, you're going to be so much less fraught with misery on your first few days of school. The kids will get busy and distracted and be having fun in an hour, and you are at work like, "Oh, I'm the worst mom," So we just want to take that out any way we can. So that and visits, we really encourage parents to come and visit your program with your child before you start. Ask your school, "Hey, can we just play for an hour in the afternoon?" And just with the parent there so they can get a feel for it. And when children know that their parents feel comfortable with something, they will feel much more comfortable. They pick up on our anxieties. So we really want to try to shield them from that as much as we can.
Listening to you talk reminded me of the first time I dropped my oldest son, Gio, off at daycare. And my own reaction surprised me. I was looking forward to him getting into daycare to sort of free up my attention and be able to, go back to work and, focus on the things I needed to do to be productive. And as I walked in there and handed him over to the daycare worker who I had met before, we had been in and done a tour, I got all choked up and I had to leave quickly, and I found myself in tears on the drive home. And I was like, okay, That was surprising. I wasn't expecting that out of myself. And and then, yeah, I found myself very much in that place that you're describing, where I was thinking about him all day and wondering, did we do the right thing? And with some repetitions, the second day was much easier. The third day, much easier. And after we'd been going there a couple of weeks, and he was excited to go in, and he kind of reached for the workers there, the teachers there. That made me feel a lot better. I needed a little bit more time, a few more repetitions to get more comfortable with that process.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Kids and adults are not different in that we all really are creatures of habit. We like routine. We like to know what's next. We like to know what's coming. And that's a big new unknown. And, the way I look at it is children are they're like little pieces of us walking around in the world, right? So you're leaving this little piece of yourself with someone you don't know that well. Of course, it's nerve-wracking. And it's really just more about, what do you let your child see and what words are you saying? I've had parents who you can see the tears in their eyes and they're saying to their child, "You're going to have so much fun with your teachers and I'll see you after nap and I love you, bye." And on the way out they're bawling, but they're trying to hold it together. And I think that's important because we don't want to put our stress and our anxieties on them any chance we can to keep that to ourselves.
Leah, how would you describe what sets you and KidTime apart from others in the preschool and daycare space?
I would say, Kid Time has always been about being a community for families. We really try to show up for not just the children, but for the parents and the whole family as well. And I think that's translated. We have a really good reputation in our community. People know of us as being more than just kind of a daycare center. So I think it's really that focus on getting to actually connect with people. I've heard of preschools where they don't really like the parents to interact, because when they do, then they talk about things they don't like and then they bring it to the director, and now there's more work for the director to do. And in my mind, I'm a growth minded person. Our business is all about always being better and learning something new every day. So to me, I would much rather us kind of make those connections and continually to improve the programs for everyone, than to have this egoic feeling of, well, we're the best and we do what we do and you better like it or not. We're not for everyone. Not everyone wants to do play-based curriculum. Not everyone wants their kids to get as messy and hands-on as we do. And we're happy to help people find the right school for them if they're not going to be a fit, because it's you need to feel comfortable and happy as well, or your child will not.
That's really profound. Can you share maybe a success story of a particular child who thrived under your care? Maybe they were experiencing a little challenge and you guys were able to help them through it?
Yeah, because I think we're set up to be such physical and so much outdoor time, um and we're not sort of this regimented program. We've done very well with kids that were struggling in other programs. We've had many, usually boys, usually 3 or 4 year old boys, that mom will call and say, "Oh my gosh, we're getting kicked out. The behavior is a problem, this and that," and they come to us and they do so much better. And I think we're we do not give up easily on a child. I will end the relationship with a family more often than not because the parents don't work with us and are not cooperative. I have never let a child go because of their own behavior. It's always been because we
Wow.
bring the behavior to the parents. We say, "How do we work on this?" And let's strategize. And if the parents are checked out, that's when it's not going to work. So I think, those kind of tougher, wild friends that need to move a lot and have a lot to say, we want to give them a place where they get to learn too. It's not This world is not about cookie cutter. We're all different. So everyone should have a place.
I really like that. I'm curious to hear more about what that approach looks like in the real world. I remember when we were going through the daycare experience here, we had friends who, great parents, great kids, and the kids were having some behavior problems at the school, and the parents were just mortified, and they didn't know what to do. They wanted to be helpful. They wanted the behavior to change. And in that case, where you've got a parent who's interested and cooperative and wants to be part of the solution, how are you, in this case, it was like a child who kept biting other kids.
Mhm.
How would you work through something like that?
Yeah, I mean, biting is super common, especially amongst our little friends that aren't verbal yet. It's a very quick way to get a reaction. So, whenever we have a behavioral issue that we need parent help with, typically it's we have a meeting, we talk about it, we try to identify the reason why things are happening. Often we can pinpoint it's usually a power issue or an attention issue or a control
Mhm.
issue. And so we give the parents tools, and sometimes, even though the behavior is happening at school, at home, the parent can give them do different things, like give them more power and control in more measured and specific ways, so that they're not seeking that attention or that power need. And again, it's also meetings with the teachers at school and coming up with, okay, well, this is our behavior plan. Here's how we're going to, when this happens, this is what we all say. It has to be consistent. And so much of it is just getting the school and the parents on the same page. When we're all willing to dump our energy into a solution, it almost always pans out. And in all honesty, what I have noticed is when I have a meeting with parents, sometimes it's an overnight change. We don't even do very much
Wow.
differently, but it's that everyone came together. Now we're all thinking about the same things in the same way. So all of our verbiage and how we speak to the children, all of it shifts just enough that the child can kind of settle down. But yeah, usually we just have to try to pinpoint what is causing it, and there's almost always a reason that we can find, and we work it out that way. So we always think about adjusting the behavior. We say control the environment, not the child. It's not
Mhm.
our job to control children, but maybe there's ways that we can line up differently. Maybe there's things that we can do, bring them into the classroom first and have them help be the line leader, and that helps them to come into the classroom easier. There's all kinds of tools that we do, but bringing the parents on board is vitally important.
Hmm, interesting. Lee, I'm going to ask you to put your business hat on for a moment, because I'm curious to hear, as business leaders, we're always we've got an eye to the bottom line. There are obviously other things that are also important to running the business besides just profit, but without a solid bottom line, we're not going to keep our doors open very often. So I'm kind of curious to hear from you, maybe some interesting things that you've tried in the past to either lower costs or boost sales to help with that metric.
Yeah, that is always the challenge. Even though we do a lot of volume, we have a lot of children coming in every month. Our overhead is ridiculous, so it is always a challenge. I guess I don't know how this sounds to the business community, but one of the things I've learned is just to really embrace the debt that I hold at this point. Before I was a business owner, I was like, I don't want any credit card debt. I don't want any, extra bills. And now I recognize that debt is part of like the natural order. You have to borrow money to be able to continue to grow. And in our rapid growth period that we had, we're still sort of like leveling out from the last 4 years. But I had to get really comfortable thinking about knowing that the future is going to be brighter, and knowing that while it's very stressful, feeling like, okay, I've got to borrow from Peter to pay Paul this month, at the end of the day, this is not forever. It is temporary. We're very careful with our balance sheets, with our P&Ls, and we look over everything and make sure that there's, tweaks that can be made. But there aren't a lot, to be honest. There's an old saying in childcare, you can only thin the paint so much. And at the end of the day, I've had to get better about raising rates and about charging what is appropriate. We've always kind of ran below the market, and I felt like a better person for doing that. And then, with COVID, everything changed. So many teachers left the field because they all got let go and furloughed at the beginning. Many of them became nannies. They were making $10 more an hour than preschools can afford to pay. So when they came back into the business, a lot of the preschools now were paying a lot more money, which is what I think should be happening. but it's forced us to have to charge more. It's forced us to have to take a look at our fee structures and make sure that we're not cutting off our nose to spite our face. I want to be a good human, but I also really want to be open. So, and
You
be
got to
there
keep
for
the
our
doors
families.
open,
Yeah,
or everybody
absolutely.
loses their jobs, and the parents and the families don't have a place to go. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I look at it as, we all help each other when the time is right. During COVID, I had parents who stepped up and paid for school that they were not allowed to even attend. And so where I can help parents, I will help them every time. But the overall pricing has to be appropriate so that we can keep the doors open. Yes.
of course. Leah, in a competitive job market like we're in now, recruiting and retaining good employees can be really challenging. What's something that you've tried and found success with?
I think the care that you take with your employees is what makes all the difference in the world. I can't say that we're the highest paid center. I'm sure people pay more than I do, and people definitely charge more than I do. But it's about getting to letting those teachers know that you care about them, showing up for them, supporting them, having their back. My teachers know that if a parent got upset and was rude or pushy with a teacher, that parent's going to hear from Miss Leah, and I'm going to contact them and let them know we're going to need you to be a little more gentle with our staff. These people are very, very important to us, and we just treat everyone very kindly and with a lot of love. It's not for everyone. This field, this job, our centers, our philosophy is not even for every teacher. For some people, it's like, oh my gosh, this is too messy, too wild. I don't like it. But when we find those people who really get it and really understand our philosophy, we want to grow them as leaders. We want to retain them. We want to, take good care of them, good benefits. And my door is always open, and they know I'm always available if anyone needs a one-on-one, or I do those frequently too. Just have one-on-ones with the teachers, just to check in and see what's going on, what's new with you, and what do you need, and how can I support you.
Leah, what's something you wish you could teach a younger version of yourself?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I wish I had been more confident with what I know when I was younger. I think in the past I needed more validation from others. And I've gotten to a point now where, I really can lean in and trust my instincts. And I wish I'd had more years of that. I'm excited to see what the next bunch of years are like now that I've mastered that skill. But to be able to really just trust myself and know that oftentimes my gut is right. And, even if sometimes it doesn't, people don't agree, that's okay. They don't always have to think you're right or agree with you or even like you. It's about the work you're doing and what you're putting out there that matters.
And so where did you sort of discover this confidence to listen to your gut, your inner self? Did that come from these retreats that you've been talking so glowingly about?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the retreats being in going inside, learning more about myself, and just that piece of self care that I was not doing at all. And also, COVID. Really, COVID showed me that, you know what, if I could get through that, I can get through anything. If KidTime could roll through this nightmare of a time, we will thrive through anything. And now, we've gotten through the survival. Now we get to just thrive.
What's a fun fact most people wouldn't know about you?
Oh gosh, most people wouldn't know. That's a hard one because I'm an open book. Um, fun fact most people don't know about me is I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm still working on it, but I'm pretty much almost on the other side of it. So I relate very well to people who give themselves away. And that's something that I think because I've figured out that wasn't serving me, I want to spread that medicine to everyone. And, hey, let's please ourselves too. And it's okay to take care of yourself. It helps you to be better at taking care of the people around you when your cup is full.
That's great. What's something you do for fun outside of work?
I love hanging out with my friends. I have a very tight group of women friends that just fill my soul and make me happy. And just being with them is my favorite thing. I love to travel. I love little trips to Tahoe. We're fortunate to live in a driving distance from Lake Tahoe. So yeah, just, rest, relaxing, being outside. And I'm learning how to meditate and to kind of just be. That's my new journey I'm on now. So I'm enjoying that as well.
Leah, are there any specific mentors, books, maybe other experiences outside of the retreats that have helped shape you or your professional career?
As an early childhood professional, definitely. There's a woman who passed away several years ago. Her name was Bev Boz, Bos, and she was an incredible child advocate, child care advocate. She ran a program out of her home, and it was all about hands-on, play-based learning and letting the kids be themselves. So much of what I believe has come from her line of thinking. And what I learned from her is that you do have to stand up sometimes and advocate for what you're doing. Sometimes parents don't understand, well, why are my kids so messy? Explain to me why you let them do this painting activity this way. And you have to be able to back up what you do. So she was a huge inspiration to me, and I'll always be grateful to her. I never had the chance to meet her, but I did meet her son, and I interviewed him years ago, and that was amazing. So Bev Boz is definitely high on that list for me.
Very good. Leah, I just have one more question for you, but before I ask it, I want to do a couple of things. If you're listening today and you like today's content, please hit the subscribe, like, or share button on your favorite podcast app. Second thing is, I want to tell people, what's the best way to get in touch with you? How do we make that happen?
Sure. The best way to reach me is through my Instagram. It's Parent Time Miss Leah. And you can DM me anytime. I'm always happy to chat with people. If you wanted to have a breakthrough session with me, I do a free call for your first call. So you can DM me. I'll send you the link. There's links in my bio for my retreat, for all of the podcasts. Everything that I've done is linked.
Oh, a free first call. I might have to take you up on that.
Anytime.
You've already dropped some golden nuggets on me today. I can't wait to see what else would be behind the curtain there.
Love
Okay,
that.
so last question for you, Leah. I'm curious, how do you see the industry that you're in evolving in the next 5 years? What do you think the big changes are that are coming?
Well, it's interesting. In California, they have been rolling out universal TK, which is for 4-year-olds. So a lot of our 4-year-olds that we've been servicing for all of these years are now going off to elementary schools for their pre-K, their year before kindergarten. TK stands for transitional kindergarten. So in California, it's been a little scary for those of us in the field because our older group is starting to get smaller. So for me, I'm feeling like the future is in babies and the younger children, because it's a little bit of a tough pill. I'm a very left leaning, bleeding heart person. I want everyone to have everything they can for free from the state and the government, but it's been tough to lose our families because it's really hard to compete with free. So we're looking at just taking more younger kids, and if we open another center, it'll probably be another infant and toddler, or a younger preschool center. But preschool is here to stay. We have working parents. There's always going to be a need, and that's one thing that I've been very fortunate, is that KidTime has felt like a very recession proof business. Even when people lose their job temporarily, a lot of them will say, we're not giving up our childcare because we're not going back on a list of 200 waiting for a spot again. So we need more centers. There needs to be more good quality people that are willing to do this work. It's not easy, but it is so rewarding. And I'm a big advocate for people going to school, getting their early childhood education, and making their way into the field if that feels like what they love to do.
And so these TK centers that are offered by the state, are these all-day programs, or they're for more limited hours?
Most of them are 3 hours a day, which gets tricky for parents, but then they'll go to the after school care on the campus if there's space. So that's been a little bit of a complicated dynamic because a lot of people will go, plan to go to TK and then find out, oh, wait, I don't have wraparound care. I'm
Mhm.
only covered from 9 to 12 or 8 to 11. So we've started offering a full day transitional kindergarten class at one of our sites to help those that just aren't able to bridge that gap. It's tough. It's really tough out there for parents these days.
Fascinating. Well, Leah, I want to be the first one to thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It was really fun. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.